Not just one liberal Karen, but two liberal Karens, one of which was on the Harris campaign, if that tells you anything about her, decide to go at our main man, Scott Jennings. Check out the look on Scott's face right there. What? This lady and this lady did a classic woman Karen move, which some men do it sometimes too, when you're arguing with somebody and they start to change the definition of terms and even what you're arguing about. You're arguing about this, and then they bring up this thing over here, and then they change the definition of terms of what you're talking about and just make you confused. But that didn't work on Scott. It's Sean Daniel here. Hit that like button if you are happy that you are not married to this woman. Oh my God, I gotta hit this like button. Hold on.
What Illinois' Governor J.B. Pritzker said yesterday in his latest back and forth over the president's plans. Let's listen.
It's clear that in secret they're planning this, well, it's an invasion with U.S. troops if they in fact do that. The other thing is, they ought to be coordinating with local law enforcement, but they don't want to do that either. And I must say it's disruptive, it's dangerous, it tends to inflame passions on the ground when they don't let us know what their plans are and when we can't coordinate with them.
His use of the word invasion, is that how you see it?
Invasion, no. Look, I don't like these National Guard deployments. I think that they should come with an invitation from the governor, as is historically the case. In the case of D.C., it's a little more complicated because it's within the president's power to do it here. But what's going on in Chicago is very bad in terms of crime. It's not a crisis. And I think that the problem is it's one of these, sort of Baptist and bootlegger problems where you have, this is great for Pritzker politically, and it's great for Trump politically, to argue about crime, to argue about invasion and all these kinds of things. I just don't think it's a wise public policy.
You were smirking when you were listening to him.
Well, look, surging federal agents, ICE, CPB, to a state that has over 500,000 illegal immigrants in it, many of them live in Chicago. I mean, the federal government is going to enforce federal law. I hear Pritzker complaining that there's no coordination, but I also heard the mayor say he's ordered the police department not to cooperate with federal officials on this immigration crackdown. So how are you supposed to cooperate if the mayor is ordering his own police force not to do so? The fact is you have people in this country illegally. The president has promised since he was running his campaign last year that he planned to crack down on illegal immigration. He's sending federal agents to Illinois to do that. I'm not entirely certain why everybody is so angry or surprised about this. I mean, we're here enforcing federal immigration law in a city that we can argue about whether it's a crisis or not, but there were 53 shootings there over the weekend. It's pretty violent.
We should also be clear. They were talking about sending the National Guard in long before they were talking about this ICE operation. These two things have now become merged.
He's saying they're on standby.
About to say this.
What is there to argue about with what Scott just said? Well, Lulu Garcia Navarro, a CNN contributor, I'm sure is about to go off on some liberal BS because I skipped forward and all I see is this frame, about why there's some problem that Trump wants to make a place safer. Why? Because they're going to give you some ridiculous argument about danger, about putting people in bad situations, about not coordinating, when the governor, already doesn't want to coordinate. He doesn't want to coordinate with ICE, so what makes you think he would want to coordinate with the National Guard? They're about to argue that they're blending the ICE and National Guard thing. But if the governor's already not wanting to coordinate with an ICE operation where people are breaking federal law, what gives him the ground to claim he would even try to coordinate with a National Guard operation? Let's see how she tries to argue it.
He's saying they're on standby. About to say this. What is it? What is happening here in Chicago? First, it's about crime, if you listen to Trump. Now, apparently, it's about immigration enforcement. I mean, when you are talking about, no wonder people are confused, no wonder people are alarmed, because if it is not clear what the purpose of these kinds of operations are, people are going to assume the worst. I mean, here in D.C., apparently it's about crime, except most of what we've seen has been immigration enforcement. Now you're going to move to a U.S. city, Chicago, where apparently it is about immigration enforcement if it's the president, but it's not. It's about crime. Like, what are we talking about?
Aren't they one and the same? If you're in the country illegally, you're a criminal.
No, that's not the same thing. And
why?
It's a civil offense if you cross the border illegally.
Oh my gosh!
No, but wait a second. You are trying to make.
If you're here breaking U.S. immigration law, why should you be deported?
You are trying to say that anyone in this country illegally is some kind of murder or killer. Crime is a different thing. Shootings, muggings, the things the president talks about are different than immigration enforcement. Those are two different things. They're dealt with by different groups of law enforcement. They are two different things. To conflate them is disingenuous.
I don't know why they wouldn't all need to be dealt with.
So now you're not a criminal, according to this liberal on CNN who has the power to share her message to thousands of people, including you guys, but you guys are educated, that if you cross the border illegally, you're not a criminal. You see how they do this gradual transition, which you can almost see with people or spouses or boyfriend and girlfriends when you have arguments. How we change terms, right? Like she's doing, oh, well, he's an illegal. Well, illegal means you broke the law, but that doesn't mean you're a criminal, right? Because crime is different. Now, what she's saying in regards to how Trump is framing it, that's a different argument. But you get in arguments with your spouse, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, even your family members, right? And all these terms get changed, right? I wanted you to do this. You didn't want to do that. Well, did I ever say I wanted to? I kind of just did it because you wanted me to. I never forced you to do that. Well, kind of you did the way terms get changed and it becomes this confusing thing for people. And now you talk to liberals on the street, you say the word illegal, and it doesn't hold the weight of breaking the law, the exact definition, which I'm going to look up right now. Illegal means contrary to or forbidden by law, especially criminal law. Okay, what the hell's criminal law? Criminal law, a system of law concerned with the punishment of those who commit crimes. Endangers the property, health, safety, and welfare of people. Even if you say criminals are ones that endanger the lives, property, safety of other people, I would say illegals do the same thing because we don't know who they are, so they could potentially cause harm to people, property, other people's safety. Because when they just walk across the border and don't have anything on them, don't have any information, we don't check who they are, they could cause problems for us. Does that mean they definitively did? No. But see how they change these terms to make you confused, just like your spouse would in an argument, huh?
All need to be dealt with.
Let me just jump in because you talked about immigration and then you brought up what happened in Chicago over the weekend. Those are two different things. The 53 shot in Chicago over the weekend, that is true. And on that note, ABC News had this headline: 53 shot over the weekend in Chicago as governor rejects Trump's threat to send in National Guard. If you look at it through the crime prism here, what do you say to people, Adrienne, who see that headline and say, well, maybe this isn't such a bad idea?
Well, I think, look, here's what's happening. I can at least speak to what's happening here in Washington, D.C., where I've lived for the past 30 years. Yes, crime is an issue here, but sending in the National Guard is not the way to solve for this. Put more cops on the street. Give the federal government of Washington, D.C. more funds to hire more cops so that you actually have more community policing, so you have police officers who are integrated into the community that are helping to solve these issues of crime. Instead, you're sending in the National Guard, which is causing intimidation, which is causing a lot of discord among communities. We've all seen the viral videos of people being yanked off of their scooters and thrown into cars with people in masks that you're like, are these actually National Guard members? Are they ICE members? Who are these people? So the end of the day, I do agree that, yes, it's politically good. If we're going to talk about politics, politically good for Pritzker and I guess politically good for Trump. But at the end of the day, Trump is trying to use the National Guard in a way that's not being received well in communities. And I think he is going down a very dangerous path. If he's using the National Guard for this, is he going to decide that he doesn't like the way the elections are being run in 2026? Let me ask you, Scott, because is he going to use the National Guard for that?
Can I just respond to the National Guard? You told me you haven't been here all month. I've been here every week this month since they've been deployed.
I've been here all summer, Scott, except for the last 2 weeks. So I live here in Washington,
So since
DC.
National Guard's been deployed?
Yeah, but you cannot sit here and tell me that I don't know how it's affecting my community that I've lived in for a very long time.
Here's what I'm telling you. I've been walking around here all weekend and every week for the last several weeks since they've been deployed. Here's what I've seen. I've seen extremely friendly National Guard members having extremely friendly interactions. I've seen them pose for numerous pictures. Other than a few soreheads out doing protesting who tend to protest everything, I think they have been extremely well received from my observations, and they've been quite a bit. I've been here for most of the last month.
Good use of our National Guard to come into communities.
We've arrested thousands of criminals, taken illegal guns off the street, picked up illegal aliens, and gotten some pretty bad characters.
And intimidated people in communities and created just discord across.
All I'll say
people
is
who are wondering why there's a police state in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, let's take her word for it that she knows her community. Do you know what rich area of D.C. this woman probably lives in? She was gone for the last few weeks, probably on vacation, which means she had Monday to do it. Maybe she's on the east side of the Capitol where there's some really nice homes. Maybe she's way up north on the northwest side. She doesn't know anything about the average person who's intimidated when she's going around in her golf cart, pretty ritzy community. Remember that. Now, Scott may have seen it more the last few weeks because he doesn't fully live in D.C., I believe. He lives in Kentucky, but he's been there for a few weeks. And when you walk around D.C. and you have to go to the CNN studio, you see kind of a little bit of, you see mostly the federal area of D.C. You don't necessarily see all the residential spots. But he's been seeing more than this lady who's been not there and then probably lives in a rich neighborhood, which isn't the average citizen.
The numbers don't back up the contention that this has been hugely effective. What you've seen absolutely is a huge diminution, crime going down, as one would expect when you have a huge surge of law enforcement, but obviously you can't sustain that, right? That isn't policing. That isn't looking at the long-term, kind of plan for a community. That is a surge of forces which happen in many places, and it just shows that there really aren't any policies in place here. But what you've seen in terms of arrests, actually not many more arrests than you have seen at other periods of time here. So, what is the actual effect of this crime surge? I think you'll look back and say, sure, crime went down for a very limited period of time.
The mayor says that.
The mayor for a very
say,
limited period of time. What does that mean for the actual safety and security of Washington, D.C. long term? What are the policies here? National Guard on the streets, you would have to admit, is not a policy proposal.
And do what the mayor said of Washington, D.C., which is give me more law enforcement. Give me more funds so that I can hire more police officers so that we have a very, very effective community policing strategy.
Right.
Instead of sending in the National Guard, who doesn't know this community, who doesn't know, who doesn't have these relationships in these neighborhoods.
So now it's a problem because it's not a long-term solution. You see how the goalposts keep moving with why this is not a good idea? Oh, the National Guard doesn't know the community. I bet you when a National Guard member walks in with their serious uniform, that people don't straighten up, that people are like, oh, crap. Oh, I can't be selling this crack on the side of the street. I can't be messing around. I can't be looking ridiculous. I can't be looking suspicious. I bet you people tighten up. And also, it should be mandatory for people in a CNN, Fox News, CBS, and this goes for Fox News too, by the way. If you're going to be in this pompous position of being in a studio, giving your opinion, reading a few studies, watching some clips, and then sharing your opinion, which gets sent out to thousands of people across the nation, and across the world, really, about the situation in D.C. when you've never even seen in person a National Guard member. You've never even seen them interact with anyone in D.C., let alone have you gone on a ride-along. That should be mandatory before these people give their opinion. Heck, I should be able to go on one of those ride-alongs. That would be cool. Maybe they'd pay for my flight from Slovenia. It's Sean Daniel here. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see another Scott Jennings video where he goes at some of these CNN panelists, check out this video right here or here. I don't know where it's going to be, and I'll see you there.